Hi everybody. I'm frazzled. Managed to get the edit done. The book is all locked in. Incredibly, it comes out on Monday, so that is one fast turnaround. Called 6 days, 6 hours, 6 minutes, and yeah, like if I've just edited a book or written a book, my head is so full of book that I can barely even acknowledge the outside world. And I'm knackered, and I always come down with a cold. Like once I finish writing a book, I think it's such a stressful experience, especially this book. This book is brutal. That you literally go into like recovery mode, survival mode, because your brain is convinced, such as the power of writing, that you have literally been through a grueling, horrific experience. When I was writing these books, I remember after each one, because I wrote them so quickly, I wrote each one in about 3 weeks. I would be so exhausted for days and sometimes weeks afterwards. I'd come down with a cold and my brain would be like, that was really intense. I can't believe we went through all that. And I'd be like, well, we didn't really. And it's like, didn't we? Are you sure? Anyway, I'm rambling. I haven't got too much time today because it's quite late and my regular Dungeons and Dragons game starts very soon. In fact, it starts in about 9 minutes. I'm going to be late. But Dungeons and Dragons is one of my favourite things to do. I don't know if anyone else plays. It's just a joy. It's just one of the best. Well, it's just such an adventure and such a laugh. So I'll be dashing off to do that at some point. Sorry, that's Dungeons and Dragons notifications popping up on my screen. But I will get through a chapter tomorrow. I think it's going to be a very short one tonight. I'll see if I can get through. If I can get through 2, I will. Probably, sorry, my brain is so frazzled. Tomorrow I don't have an edit to do. Yay! So I'll be back tomorrow, and I'll be a bit more with it, and maybe I'll try for 3 chapters tomorrow, maybe 4. I don't know how many left in the book. Okay, I've just eaten like a slab of chocolate as well. So if you see me doing this, I'm not turning into a berserker. I just have chocolate in my teeth. Okay. Z, Simon, and Alex have been in the cathedral. There was just chaos in the cathedral, people turning against each other. They tried to sacrifice them. There was a kid on the floor who turned into a rat. Berserkers came in to rescue the rat. Berserkers killed everyone and the rats killed everyone. Berserker came up to Alex and basically said, hey dude, how you doing? Like, we're on the same side. Except he didn't say it because they can't speak. And Alex was like, I'm not one of you. And he tried to kill it, but as a berserker. So now they're in the church, the cathedral. The cathedral's on fire. Everyone else has been pretty mercilessly slaughtered. And we'll see what happens next. Clear Sight, this chapter is called. As soon as the berserker had gone, Z, Simon and Lucy made their way back to the nave. Lucy was staring at me with a mix of fear and suspicion, and I noticed that the boys were doing exactly the same. I lowered myself down onto a... I'm so sorry. Pew! Looking at my right arm to see the bulging tendons pulsing with nectar. It had swollen so much that it could have belonged to a skinned gorilla. The itch from the bite was spreading down through my chest and my stomach, even as far as my right leg, but I didn't dare peek beneath my clothes to see what was happening. Z came and sat next to me, his head in his hands. It took me a moment to notice. He was crying. Poor Z. It's never going to end, is it? He said, wiping his face with his sleeve. I slung my good arm over his shoulders, feeling them heave. Before I knew it, I had tears of my own. Z's frustration and fury contagious. He lashed out at the pew in front, his bony fists not budging it. It's never going to end. Not now. I wanted to reassure him, calm him. And what could I say? It's going to end pretty damn quick if we don't get out of here, Simon said, nodding at the fire. The whole eastern end of the cathedral was blazing, fuelled by the draught that cut between the broken windows. A thick blanket of smoke hovered just above head height, filling the inverted bowl of the dome and dropping steadily closer. I was grateful to it as I wiped my eyes, blaming my tears on the burning air. Why didn't it kill you? Z asked, looking up at me through red-rimmed eyes. It didn't even try. What's that about? Maybe it had a crisis of conscience, I replied, attempting a smile. Decided it wanted to be a pacifist. Yeah, because it was real gentle with everyone else, Z retorted. He looked at Lucy, who had made her way from body to body. The ones that hadn't been savaged beyond recognition, that was. Any survivors? They're all dead, Lucy said, her hand resting on the throat of a woman for a second before she shook her head. Jesus, they killed everybody. She stood, throwing an expression my way, almost fierce enough to knock me dead. See what they did? Your friends, they killed everybody. They didn't kill her, Simon replied, nodding at the security guard who stared unblinking at the ceiling. That was your friends. Lucy turned her glare on him, and Z stood up, his tears apparently forgotten as he walked between them like a referee. She looked back to me malevolently. That thing treated you like you were its brother. Look at me, I hissed back. I look more like those things every second. Soon I'm going to look more like them than I do you. In its eyes, I am its brother. But the rats by the metro, they attacked you, said Simon. They're just animals, though, I replied. They're feral. They attack everything, even each other. I'd thought the berserkers were mindless killers as well, but they were something far worse. They possessed intelligence. Not human intelligence, but they were clever enough to recognise friends from enemies. Clever enough to follow orders. I think Furness wants me alive for some reason, I went on. Maybe he wants us all alive. I don't know why, though. So he can kill us himself, probably, Simon said. And even though I knew that was far too simple an explanation, I still nodded. Let's forget it, Z said, swallowing hard. It's pointless trying to work out what's going on when none of us have a clue. He turned to the cathedral doors, still chained, then looked at the window, the fire now licking at its sill. The flames had also reached the first row of pews, devouring them with relish. He set off towards the northern aisle, taking Lucy's arm as he went. Come on, I think it's time for some fresh air. I didn't get up straight away. Part of me just wanted to sit there until the flames consumed me. Surely there was some rule that if you died inside a cathedral, then you had to go somewhere good afterwards. It's not like I believed in heaven or anything, but I'd seen hell. Hell was right outside this building, spreading fast. And anywhere had to be better than that. My arm throbbed, the sensation passing to my fingers, the nectar singing inside me. I was changing again. And if my suspicions were right, if my worst fears were coming true, then it would be far better to be cremated right here than find out what I was turning into. But if I was really part of Furness's plan, maybe I could find a way to stop it. Maybe I could find a cure. Reluctantly, as I felt the heat getting closer, I pushed myself up from the pew and followed the others. Z walked through an archway into a small anteroom, passing through it to another spiral staircase, this one stretching upwards. He set off at a pace. Z, I asked, I know I shouldn't question your wisdom, but isn't it a bad idea to go up when you're inside a burning building? You're right, Alex, he said, and he must have been feeling better because his exhausted laugh echoed up the stairs, emboldened by the stone. You shouldn't question my wisdom. We seemed to go round and round forever, my head growing dizzy with both the rotation and the effort. At one point we passed another arch which led off into smoke-filled shadows, but Z ignored it, clomping relentlessly upwards. I don't know how much later it was before sunlight began to filter into the staircase, and after 3 more upward loops we stepped out onto a sweeping balcony. Whoa, I said, my head still spinning, my eyes screwed almost shut against the blinding light. I made out the cathedral's dome to my right, rising endlessly, and to my left was a stone balustrade that ran the length of the balcony. It was as tall as I was, but windows had been punched into it at regular intervals, and through them, bathed in gold, was the city. I blinked until I was used to the glare, then I walked to the nearest one. Come on, Z said, bracing his hands on the top of the stonework and struggling up. There will be emergency ladders on the roof. View's better from up here as well. How do you know? Lucy asked, looking reluctant but eventually accepting Z's hand. You telling me you never came here with school? He asked as he hauled her onto the ledge. We got in so much trouble for climbing up here. Detention for a week, but it was worth it. I looked at Simon and we shrugged at each other. Then I effortlessly vaulted up to join him. It was solid stone and wide at the top, which was a relief, but still the sheer drop onto the cathedral roof far below made my stomach clench and my ears ring. I gripped the stone hard, trying not to grimace. Simon had turned a strange colour, and I noticed that his eyes were closed. You okay?" I asked. "I'm not used to heights," he grunted. I wasn't either. It had been so long since I'd been above ground at all that being all the way up here didn't seem real. To see the city opened up before me, a tapestry of streets and buildings whose every shade was given life by the sun, made me smile so hard my face hurt. I could see for miles, all the way over to the distant hills that bordered the suburbs. The sensation of being so high, almost as far above the ground as we had once been below it, made my heart sing. It was so powerful that it took me a while to make sense of what I saw. At first, I thought I was hallucinating again, Alfred Furness filling my head with terrifying visions. But this was no nectar-inspired nightmare. The golden glow came not from the sun, but from 1,000 fires. The entire city was burning. "No way," said Z. "This is insane." Pillars of smoke rose from every direction, making the city seem like another cathedral whose vast roof was supported by blackened columns. The worst fire was over by the river, where an entire block of office buildings was being consumed. There was no sign of fire engines there, the flames blazing unchecked, spreading fast as they caught the wind. Another inferno was closer, near what I thought was the city library. Luckily, the smoke from this one fanned out like a charred canopy, blocking the view into the centre, concealing the skyscrapers there. "Why is this happening?" asked Lucy, her face a mask of calm but her words trembling. "Why isn't the government doing something?" It looked like the authorities were trying their hardest to contain the situation. At least 5 or 6 helicopters could be seen hovering over the streets, military birds bristling with guns and radio equipment. And from up here I could make out the rattle of trucks and the orders bellowed from below. There was gunfire too, plenty of it. Each burst shattering the unreal sense of stillness and distance that we felt up here, perched on the roof of the world. But there was only so much they could do. Guns were useless against a beast of hardened skin and rippling muscle whose veins flowed with nectar. You could shoot a berserker 100 times, and the chances were it would get back up and keep on coming. And the rats, these new ones, there could have been hundreds of them. I don't know how many inmates had been caught, turned, but from what we'd seen already, the streets were crawling with freaks that had once been kids. "We should just be thankful it's a Sunday," Z said, "and that it's so early. Imagine if this was a shopping day at lunchtime. The city would be jammed." "Imagine if it was a school day," Lucy added, making us all shiver. A burst of gunfire rose up from close by, and we craned out over the main body of the cathedral below to see a pack of soldiers advancing across the plaza, taking cover behind an armoured truck. They were all firing across the street that ran parallel to us, at a shape in white overalls that threw itself through a shop window and vanished. The face of the shop exploded into dust as the bullets impacted, and we watched as the soldiers surrounded the building, lobbing in a flashbang before clambering through the window in pursuit. "We should get down there," Lucy said. "They'll be able to take us to safety, right?" Wrong. Seconds later, one of the soldiers flew back through the window, rolling across the street, spouting a vivid helix of blood. Another followed, tripping onto the pavement and firing wildly into the shop. He ripped a hand grenade from his belt and lobbed it inside, seeming to forget about the rest of his unit. There was a muffled pop that blew out the remaining windows. We watched, half in amazement, half in horror, as the rat launched itself through the dust with a cat-like pounce, landing on the soldier and going to work with untamed ferocity. "Jesus," said Z. The armoured truck accelerated, the rat too busy with its meal to even notice, its bumper connected with the creature at what must have been 40 miles an hour, carrying it over the plaza and disappearing out of sight behind the cathedral roof below. We all heard the crash, though, and after that nothing but the roar of flames. "We have to get out of the city," Z went on. He squinted into the horizon, and I followed his line of sight. It took me a while to get my bearings, But when I did, I grew so faint and dizzy, I almost tumbled right off that ledge. In the distance, over the river, past a cluster of high-rise flats, one of which was also smoking, past the park whose serpentine lake sparkled in the morning light, out towards the hills, was home. I couldn't see much from here, of course. The houses a grey smudge like the froth of a wave next to the immense ocean of the city. But it was there, somewhere, the house I'd grown up in, the house where my parents lived. If I'd had a telescope and a little more time, I'd have been able to find it. I wondered if they were there, sitting on the worn-out green velvet sofa in the living room, watching the news on the tiny television Mum had won at work in a Christmas raffle. I wondered if they thought I would be trying to get home, trying to find them. And in that instant I wanted nothing more than to do just that, to get home, to sit between their feet on the dusty carpet like I'd done as a kid, my dad ruffling my hair and kicking me playfully with his slippers. They'd accused me and abandoned me, like everyone else. But I could forgive them. Right now I would forgive them. Alex? Z's voice broke through the emotion and reality flowed back in. What do you think? Huh? I asked, not knowing what I'd missed. We get down to that truck, Lucy repeated. Make a break for Meriton. There's a police station, a big one. My dad used to work there. It's a mile away, maybe 2, but it's on the way out of town. And the truck will have a radio, Z added. We can let somebody know what's going on. It can't hurt to try. I nodded, but my mind was still elsewhere. I pictured my house, my parents, only now I watched as the plague spread, as the berserkers tore down my street, trailing rats like the Pied Piper, ripping the doors open, pulling apart the people inside, feasting on the warm corpses, spreading the nectar to the children. All the while their ranks swelling, more of the world decaying beneath their bloodied claws. The wind gusted, dividing the pillar of smoke that rose from the library, and for a fleeting second I saw the skyscraper beyond, the black monolith whose pyramid spire seemed to beckon in the flickering heat haze. I thought of Furness's message, his invitation to be part of his grotesque army. The itch in my arm flared at the thought, and I clutched it to my chest again, feeling the skin burn and bulge, slowly changing, becoming something else. Alex? Prompted Z. Yeah, it sounds like a plan, I said, when I realised they were all waiting for me. You 3, head to Meriton. You're not coming with us? Simon asked. No, I said. I've got something else to do. I watched the curtain of smoke heal itself, blocking the view once again, but beyond it that tower was still there. It was still waiting. And when I spoke again, I was speaking to it. One way or another, I'm going to end this. Oh, okay, I'm sorry that was such a short one, but I had better dash. But, I didn't want to abandon you. I will make it up to you tomorrow. I'll read 4 chapters tomorrow. We've got... Oh, hang on. Is that a really short one? I'll read it tomorrow. Yeah, we'll get through 4 tomorrow, I reckon. So yeah, but I'm so knackered tonight. I'm sorry. It's all heating up though. What's going to happen next? I actually can't remember the whole of this book. It's really weird. It's been so long since I've read it, so it's really cool actually. Trying to remember what happens to everybody, and yeah. Anyway, I hope you have a really nice evening. I'll be back in the morning tomorrow, so it'll be first thing. So I'll be up a bit earlier, and yeah, I might just fall asleep. Anyway, I better go and fight some dragons. I'll see you soon. Bye.